Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of our natural medicine series. Myself and John Campbell. We've had some absolutely fantastic discussions so far, and I am looking forward very much to this one. As always, I have no idea about the topic that's being presented. John is raring to go, I know, so we are going to have a good discussion and dive into a topic here. Hi, John.
Hi, Suneel. I think this is really quite a significant one, this actually.
Oh.
It's got a lot of applications for quite a few chronic conditions, and this is it here.
Okay.
It's a brain. No, it's not a brain. It looks like a brain. Go on, any ideas?
No. I will let you go. Tell us what it is.
This is Hericium erinaceus, otherwise known as the lion's mane mushroom.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't look like a normal mushroom, kind of with a stalk. It just grows as this blob here, and it's remarkably good for the brain. And isn't it interesting that it looks like a brain? I always think that's kind of fascinating. You know, like walnuts are really good for your brain, and they look a bit like a brain.
Almost, it almost has like a teddy bear kind of appearance as well.
Yeah. And not only has it got therapeutic molecules, it's remarkably tasty. So I might fry some up at the end of this video. So it's a gourmet mushroom, but it's also got some absolutely unique properties amongst mushrooms. And just to stress at the start, this is not anything to do with psilocybin or any other type of hallucinogenic mushrooms. It is 100% legal. It is not hallucinogenic. It is not psychedelic. So you can eat that with impunity. The only time people might not be able to eat it is if they have allergies to mushrooms. But apart from that, I think they should pretty well be okay to eat that. Now, the reason I wanted to do this, it's a bit of a personal story, really. I was talking to my brother, and he says he's quite happy for me to share this. So my brother was an academic like me. He was supervising, he had about 15 PhD students. And he had a bad road traffic accident. He was hit from behind and hit from beside. Oh, no. And he was concussed. And then he developed something called post-concussive syndrome. And for a couple of years, he was really literally 2 years, he was actually quite debilitated with it. He was getting lost in the car park, headaches, having to sleep a lot. Basically couldn't cook a meal, pretty non-functional. And then after a couple of years, the neurologists weren't really giving him any treatment. So I did a bit of research, and I found this lion's mane mushroom. And I found not a local, but a friendly mushroom farmer at the Isle of Wight mushroom farm, who makes it up into tinctures.
Oh, okay. So it can be made into a tincture as well.
Yeah, in alcohol. So we can talk about that more later. But basically, my brother bought a couple of bottles of this. And he called me about a week later, and he said, "You know what, John, I think I'm probably a little bit better." And I thought, after a week, I'm not so sure. After a fortnight, he was sure there was an improvement. And after 3 or 4 weeks, it was unequivocal. Now, he couldn't get back to work. He wasn't cured. But, he could read an article in the paper. He could run the kids to school. He could make a meal. There was a significant improvement. So after 2 years, started this, within a few weeks, significant improvement. Quite a strong temporal correlation. Now, this mushroom, we call it lion's mane because it's shaggy like a lion's mane.
Yep.
I think the Chinese call it monkey head.
Strange monkey.
Yeah, indeed. But there's various names for it. Now, it's got a long history of therapeutic use in Chinese medicine. They've known about this for thousands of years, and other Asian countries have also used it in their medical systems. And it's got lots of bioactive compounds. So there's polysaccharides, phenols, terpenoids, lots of different organic compounds in it. Diverse health promoting properties, a range of conditions. Probably going to focus on the nervous system today, but it does affect a range of conditions.
That's absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad you're talking about this, because you've alluded to a couple of things there, including that a lot of these types of compounds, which we are learning more about now, have been used in many Asian cultures for centuries. And I mean, I have been hearing more and more, literally, I would say with each passing month, I get more and more emails, people contact me mentioning lion's mane. And I've done some very superficial research on this. And yeah, I can't wait for you to tell me more about this, because I don't doubt this is probably going to take the Western world by storm over the next few years, according to the trends I'm seeing.
I think it probably probably is to some extent already. I don't know if it's in the Ayurvedic Indian tradition, but it's certainly Thailand, Cambodia, the Far East, China, Japan. Very, very popular in Japan. Some of the good research is coming out of Japan, actually. It's what we call one of these functional mushrooms. It's kind of a nutraceutical, really. So it's a food. And the reason I like it is because it's difficult sometimes when people come to you with a medical condition to recommend a drug. Because, you know, I'm not their prescriber. It's really hard to do that. But if it's a dietary change, recommending a particular food, well, that's much less ambiguous. You know, it's much less controversial to recommend a food as long as people aren't allergic to it. It's described as generally safe, so you can never say anything's 100% safe, but it's as safe as any other food or mushroom. Safe and more sustainable health solutions is what we're looking for. Now, mushrooms generally really quite nutritious, often overlooked. They contain protein, fibre, vitamins B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quite often they contain quite a lot of selenium, zinc, magnesium, potassium. They're good for you, and also potentially vitamin D. Now, do you know the trick to get more vitamin D out of your mushrooms, Suneel?
I do not out of mushrooms.
Interesting. So for most mushrooms that you buy from the supermarket, they'll contain some vitamin D too, a little bit. But if you slice them up, then leave them in the sun, they'll make more vitamin D in the sun.
Oh, fascinating.
Over the course of about, it's measurable after 10 minutes. Okay. It probably peaks after about an hour. So, you know, if you can anticipate your mushroom eating requirements, or even if you're going to buy some from the supermarket, you could put them out in the sun and then eat them the day after, and they'll contain more vitamin D, because they make vitamin D in a very similar to way that we do, which is quite interesting.
Really interesting.
Yeah. In fact, vitamin D, apart from animal products, animals, of course, it's vitamin D3, mushrooms, it's D2. Apart from that, I really can't think of any plant products that contain vitamin D. So really useful tip for vegans or vegetarians to put the mushrooms out in the sun. Also, mushrooms generally very good for prebiotics. The gut bacteria love them. Growth of lots of beneficial microbiota that keep us healthy and are involved in so many things that we're starting to learn about now. I mean, is that your understanding? Do you think that the gut microbiome is generally more recognised as being important medically and for health?
It is, yeah. I mean, with each passing year, I barely learnt about it in medical school. In fact, I only started hearing the term microbiome maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And now we're learning how intrinsic it is, not just to physical health, but mental health as well. Yeah. We have to keep a healthy microbiome.
Absolutely. The gut-brain axis. It's a fascinating area. Now, I'm going to start off by looking at peripheral nerves. So if peripheral nerves are damaged, and the most extreme form is a spinal cord injury, of course, where someone can be completely paralyzed. Now, I'm not saying this is a cure for that, but this is something that we really need to be looking at. But the problem here always is, of course, that this is a natural product. You can't patent it.
Always the issue.
So, as always, people say, where's the large-scale randomised double-blind controlled trials? And my answer is, well, where's the person that's going to pay for them? And this is the problem we have. But there are quite a few studies, quite a lot of animal studies, and as you've said, masses of inquiries, masses of, I was going to say anecdotal evidence, but that's to put it down. You know, masses of people are reporting significant benefit from lion's mane mushroom. So they did some nerve studies in rats where they damaged the peripheral nerve in rats. And when they gave lion's mane extracts, the rats that had the lion's mane extract, their peripheral nerves improved much quicker, and the motor function improved much quicker than those. In fact, the ones that weren't on the extract, they didn't really improve much at all. And I think because the motor strength improved, I think we can probably assume that the sensation improved as well.
Fair assumption, yeah. They two go hand in hand.
They do, yeah. So again, people with nerve injuries, why don't we use this? Because it's a food, it's a dietary modification. Surely it's worth a try. I mean, what sort of peripheral nerve diseases do you come across in your practice?
Oh, there are many, ranging from those which occur due to trauma. They're fairly common. You mentioned already the most severe form of trauma, spinal cord trauma, but people can have other trauma to their arms and legs, which cause very isolated issues. There are also many inflammatory and autoimmune conditions which affect peripheral nerves. The very obvious one which comes to mind is diabetes. So anything which is causing general inflammation will affect the peripheral nerves, will cause alterations in sensation. People get pins and needles, weakness, and it's a very uncomfortable thing to have. Speak to anybody with a peripheral nerve issue. The medicines we use, don't get me started on those. I've made videos on those before. They're powerful, like gabapentin, and they knock people out, and they come with other complications, which I'm sure lion's mane probably has less of.
The gabapentin, of course, it's acting on the GABA receptors, sort of in the brain and spinal cord, and there's an addictive component there to it, but it's not really helping to heal the nerves itself. And you mentioned their diabetes. I mean, we see so many people with amputations in diabetes, partly due to the vascular disease, but partly due to the peripheral neuropathy as well. Alcoholics, quite common, especially associated with vitamin B deficiency. So this, as you say, a common debilitating condition. Now, the researchers actually showed that there was activation of genes in the dorsal root ganglia neurons. So just to translate that into English, the sensory nerves go into the back of the spinal cord, and there's nerve cell bodies there. And it seems that some of these components in lion's mane actually activate those genes to allow regeneration of the nerves. Quite amazing. And it also induces the formation of neurotrophins, neurotrophic factors. And one of these is called nerve growth factor. So nerve growth factor will stimulate the regeneration, the maintenance, and the ongoing and regeneration of nerves. It's like a cytokine that stimulates it. And it promotes protein synthesis in damaged neurons. So the mechanisms all sound quite plausible to me. Do they sound plausible to you, that you could be activating nerves and increasing protein metabolism?
Very plausible, and it's great to hear about natural compounds that are actually dealing with the root cause instead of masking symptoms.
Absolutely. So you're actually getting regeneration of the nerve. And if we go back to, I'm going to talk about the central nervous system now, but if we go back to my brother's case, the concussion very much is affecting the white fibers in the brain. So people might remember that in a very basic way, the brain's got grey matter on the outside, the cerebral cortex, and white matter on the inside. There are grey bits as well, various nuclei, but so you've got this bit in the middle, this bit called the brain stem. And the way I look at this, Suneel, is that the brain stem generates consciousness, which is a bit weird, but it generates consciousness. But then that is experienced through vision and touch and sight and all the thought and thought. So you need these connections between the cerebral cortex and the brain stem. These connections, these white connections. And it's like a crown. It's called the corona radiata. And if those fibers are damaged, then you get this long-term post-concussive syndrome. So what I think what happened in my brother was that the lion's mane caused regeneration of these nerve fibers. Rather analogous to the way it could work in the peripheral nervous system, where if you think about it, if you want to move your toes, there's got to be a nerve that goes from your spinal cord all the way to your toes. It could be, more than a metre long.
True that. And it's incredible. Your brother only took it for a short amount of time.
Yeah. Well, what happened? Definitely after a month there was some improvement. After 2-3 months, he was really quite improved, and he was only taking about these bottles that he got with the tinctures. I think they're 50 mils, and he was taking about 4 mils a day. That's it. Okay. Which is about 1.5 grams. About 1.5 grams of activated substance. And the thing is, just to digress slightly, the alcohol, soaking in the alcohol makes a tincture. So it's soaked in alcohol first, then it's soaked in boiling water, almost like a tea. It's called a dual extraction process. And that seems to get more of these useful compounds out of the cells.
I see.
And I actually drank this whole bottle myself. It's actually quite nice. It's well, at first you think, well, it tastes a bit strange. But what I did, I put a few drops in milk. And it's just like a sort of mushroomy milkshake. It's actually really quite nice when you get used to it.
It does have a mushroomy kind of taste.
This smells. I wish you could sniff. I wish I could let you smell it. It smells more like mushrooms than mushrooms.
I see.
It just smells like a bag of fresh mushrooms.
Yeah. A lot of people really enjoy eating mushrooms and that taste. All sorts of uses. Maybe like they'll put it on pizza in the future as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I've sliced it up and eat it with butter. Some people pull it apart and put it into like cakes. And people with more culinary imagination than me can
hopefully
can work out lots of ways to eat it. Yeah. So central nervous system. The role here is preventing and managing neurodegenerative brain and spinal cord diseases. Now, do you have much problem in your day-to-day clinical practice with neurodegenerative diseases?
Oh, yes. See them all the time, whether we're talking about dementia or Parkinson's disease, and just causing unbelievable amount of suffering as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can probably add to that strokes.
Yeah.
And there's also some research that shows that it's effective for depression and anxiety. So we seem to have improved regeneration of the central nervous system. Now, this sounds a bit strange because when I was young, we were taught central nervous system, brain nerve cells don't divide. That was flat out the law. So basically all your brain cells have divided by the time you're about 19 or 20, and that's it for life. We now know that isn't true. Now, it might be true on the outside parts of the brain, but inside parts of the brain, you do get ongoing cell division. And it seems that lion's mane, as well as helping to heal the fibres, particularly improving the myelin sheaths around the fibres, which of course are affected in multiple sclerosis. So in the peripheral nervous system, you might remember we have the Schwann cells that form the myelin sheath. In the central nervous system, it's the oligodendroglial cells, the oligodendrocytes, and they're the ones that are affected in multiple sclerosis. Yet the information is that this is really good for the myelin. What's really frustrating is there's no decent studies in multiple sclerosis.
It's astonishing. It really is. And when you think about the suffering caused by neurological injuries and how a lot of these, we see this more in the States, super expensive drugs, which are being thrown at people with no benefits and tons of side effects. I see it all the time. Parkinson's disease, MS. Why wouldn't they research something which is natural and clearly has a scientific basis to it too?
Yeah. And is known to help myelin regeneration. Everyone knows MS is a demyelinating disease. The evidence that lion's mane promotes myelination is there. Surely a little bit of joined up thinking would say, well, heck, this is worth a try. It's but you know, Alzheimer's, strokes. Now, no one's saying Alzheimer's can be cured, but we've got the possibility at least of slowing it down quite significantly.
As with any degeneration, whether we're talking about this or arthritis, yes, absolutely, it's a noble goal. Slow down the progression any way you can.
And there is a lot of people claim benefit after stroke, which is surprising. So we're actually talking about something here that can stimulate central nervous system neuronal regeneration, which really is a bit of a holy grail, I would say, in medicine.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've said for a long time, and I've taught in the days when I used to have medical students, and we used to talk about current treatments. And one of the ongoing mantras is when something goes wrong with a lot of parts of the body, including the heart, you can lose tissue and still maintain function, and other parts will get stronger and make up for it. But as you say, the holy grail is that the issue we have with strokes, why essentially stroke treatment now is not that different from 100 years ago. You lie somebody down, control their blood pressure, give them an aspirin, that's it. It's really difficult. Once brain tissue is dead, or any nerve is dead, to regenerate it. And I know there's a lot of research going into this right now, but that research is primarily driven by where the money can be made. And it doesn't surprise me that something like lion's mane is not being investigated fully. I do have a question, just to go off on a tangent.
Let's go for it.
Is lion's mane easy to obtain? Is it like a truffle mushroom, which is really rare, or is it really easy to cultivate?
No, it's very easy to grow. So I got mine from a friend at the Isle of Wight mushroom farm. I think if you can, know where it's grown, support your local growers. That's good. I have no financial interest in it, by the way. It's just I made a video there. That's great. So, go to your local mushroom farmer, find out who they are. There's usually enthusiasts in most areas. Ask if they'll show you around. If you can find artisan growers, then you know where it's from. Now, you can buy it readily from Chinese supermarkets, but it's dried. But I always think if you can know where it's grown, that's better. So I'm going to eat this for my tea tonight with relish, knowing that it's organically grown on the, in England on the Isle of Wight. So, but find out where it's grown. You can buy kits. It's getting more available, but what we need is a local mushroom grower on every estate, several in every small town. A bit like bakers.
Very nice, yeah.
Because if you think about it, there's animals and plants which we eat, and there's fungi. The other main kingdom, and yet we eat it very, very little. It's surprising. So. I suspect if you go to a localized, a specialist grocer or outlet, you will find it. But because, people like Paul Stamets and things have been on Joe Rogan, and the Netflix series on fungi, there's a lot more interest in it now. And you could learn to grow this by watching a few YouTube videos, to be quite honest.
It's that easy. Interesting.
Yeah, it really isn't hard to grow. Grows best in about 17 to 19 degrees centigrade, so it's not a hot weather mushroom.
So it can be, grown in the UK and Europe easily.
Very much so. In fact, Alex on the Isle of Wight tells me that it's harder to keep it cool in summer than it is to warm it up in winter. So not a problem in our temperate climates. And it can grow remarkably quickly.
Is that a normal size, typical average?
Yeah, that's a fairly typical. Yeah. You'd normally pick it at around about that size. If you leave it, of course, all these little bits will form spores. That's how it reproduces. It grows on hardwood particularly, so it's hard. If you do see this growing in the wild, don't pick it because it's so rare in the wild now. We want to encourage it in the wild, so don't forage for it. In fact, don't forage for any mushrooms based on anything we say, because there are some mushrooms that are poisonous, of course. But there's nothing that really looks like this that's poisonous. So, you can trust your local grower, but just buy the domesticated form. Hardwood, sometimes a bit of bran. Some people seed it into logs and grow it in hardwood logs. But no, if you look around, I'm sure you'll find someone within a couple of miles of where you live. And everyone, you want to taste it now because it tastes a bit. It doesn't taste that. It smells very mushroomy, but it doesn't taste that mushroomy. It tastes a bit. A lot of people say it tastes like lobster. So yeah. Now, regeneration of nerve fibers and cells in the central nervous system is a holy grail of medicine. No other mushroom seems to contain the compounds that do that. This does seem to be quite unique. And one of the reasons that this is unique is some molecules in this, and I'll tell you what the molecules are in a minute, but some of the molecules in this will cross the blood-brain barrier. So what's your understanding of the blood-brain barrier, Suneel?
So as the name implies, it's a barrier between the blood, which is circulating, and the brain tissue. And this is a key concept as well in pharmacology. You want to know what drugs can cross over and affect your nervous system according to what type of molecule they are, how small they are. And if you want, or your desire is to have a particular function on the brain and nervous system, then the compound has to go through the blood-brain barrier for that reason. If you can all picture that, hopefully you can. And generally, well, obviously 100% of the time, anything which does produce a positive effect on the brain crosses the blood-brain barrier. But there are some compounds which simply don't and can never get into the brain or neuronal tissue.
Which, of course, is good, because if you've got, for example, contaminants from the gut in your blood, you don't want that going into the brain. You want this tight layer of cells between the brain and the blood that's going to keep it out. But as you say, for a molecule to work work on the brain, it needs to go through this barrier, and these molecules do. So it makes sense that you can do this. Now, in vitro, in experiments and in animal studies, there's no question that it produces neurotrophic factors. It stimulates these neurotrophic factors. Brain-derived neurotropic factor is one, cytokine type thing, a nerve growth factor.
I see.
And so you've got this direct stimulation, and also because of the antioxidant, the anti-inflammatory effects, it also helps to scavenge free radicals because it's antioxidant. And we know that free radical formation and oxidation are a big factor in diseases like Alzheimer's, for example.
Yeah, almost every disease. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I know we'd like to focus on this channel on the mechanisms. So the compounds in here, there's one group of compounds called hericenones, a group of them. And I think there's quite a few of them, different hericenones. Now, these are mostly found in this bit, which is the fruiting body. And it definitely stimulates nerve growth factor. And also, the hericenones are a mimetic. They mimic nerve growth factor and stimulate nerve growth factor receptors. Quite amazing why that should be the case. Really hard to say. It's it really is incredible, yeah. Cognitive enhancement and memory functions also reported, which I could always do with a bit of extra. And I must say, when I was taking this bottle, I need to get some more, but I did. I think I probably did feel a little bit more on the ball. But you've got to do it consistently over several weeks. So increased nerve cell growth, fibre formation, and new connections have been demonstrated in rats. And this is definite. It's been shown in rats that there is a stimulating effect on the hippocampus. Now, my neurology is not that great, but the hippocampus is very much involved in memory and memory formation and memory recall and laying down new memories, which, of course, is exactly what is the problem in Alzheimer's disease.
Exactly.
So if you could stimulate...
Help, yeah.
And we now know that there is ongoing division throughout life in the hippocampus. So plausible mechanisms, I would say. And the other group of compounds are called erinesians. And these are in the fruiting body and in the mycelium. The mycelium is kind of like the roots of the fungus. The fungus, the mushroom grows from. But there's erinesians in the fruiting body as well. And erinesin A, which is in the fruiting body, is shown, it's been demonstrated biochemically in vitro to stimulate nerve growth factor levels in the brains of animals, promoting neurogenesis and neuronal maintenance and survival. And it's also brain anti-inflammatory, reducing the inflammatory processes which cause neurodegenerative disease. And it particularly suppresses glial cell inflammatory activity. Apparently in Alzheimer's disease, the glial cells, the supportive cells in the brain, can be part of the inflammatory problem. I didn't know that, but apparently. So potential neuroprotective effects and neurohealing effects. Would such a molecule be useful? Would such an intervention be useful in your practice, do you think, Suneel?
Oh, absolutely. Given the what we're seeing with the incidence and prevalence of neurodegenerative disorders, it's astounding, and it doesn't surprise me because, as I said, I've seen some superficial research, and I've wanted to do a deep dive, which is why this discussion is so helpful to me as well. And you just wonder why we couldn't be looking into molecules like this more. Clearly, they've been used for many years in other cultures, and usually when you see a pattern like that, it's for good reason. people don't use something for centuries that doesn't have any benefits whatsoever. Question, John, in nature, are there any animals which naturally eat this? Curious to know.
Oh, that is a very good question. I don't know that one.
I'd have to look that up as well. Maybe we'll come back to you in the next video with the...
Yeah, I mean, humans have picked it to eat it for I actually don't know if animals eat mushrooms. Maybe some knowledgeable person will leave that in the comments. Do animals eat mushrooms? I can't say I've ever seen my dog eating mushrooms. He'd like sniff them, then go on to something else. But,
it would probably be, like a herbivore or some other...
grazing animals. Do deer eat mushrooms? I actually don't know.
Good thing to look at. Animals which go for these types of foods, have they got better brain capacity? Are they known for being a bit more smart? Who knows?
Yeah,
there's a lot in nature.
Surprised if they don't, because it contains protein and minerals, so animals know what's good for them. So I suspect they would do, but let's hope someone answers that. But the combination of the hericenomes and the ericinins, it's this combination that seems to be particularly helpful. So eating the whole product or the extracts of the product seems to be useful. Now, the extracts have got more of the sort of potent ingredient. So certainly eat this because it tastes nice, but you probably have to eat more to get a therapeutic effect. So one of the things we need to do is, again, do research into the optimum way to alcohol extract the components in the cell. And use the water extraction and work out the optimum way to do that. At the moment, this is mostly done by artisans, and it's a craft knowledge. But you get the impression that could be refined a bit. Now, what do you think the concentration span of our viewers is? That's half an hour. Do you think they want to hear about anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, immunological effects?
Yeah, I mean, we could touch on that and then sort of summarize everything.
Yeah, let's try and summarize a few more effects. So we've mentioned the anti-inflammatory effects, reducing inflammation, antioxidants, mopping up these free radicals. But there also seems to be immunomodulating effects as well. So good for chronic inflammation where there's oxidative stress. And we know that affects, that's a problem in a wide range of diseases. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, even cancers. And we, as you say, conventional treatments what are the conventional anti-inflammatories, Suneel, and do they have any side effects?
You mean pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a whole host of them. We all know a lot of them. We can get them over the counter. Medications like ibuprofen, call it Motrin in the United States. Then you can have your more powerful anti-inflammatories like diclofenac. Toradol is one that we use in the United States, usually as an injection. And absolutely, they come with a whole host of side effects. You have to be careful. Now, one of the most well-known, which is not uncommon, we will see somebody who has a problem like they've had some trauma and they've started taking high amounts of anti-inflammatory for maybe a couple of weeks, and then they'll come in with a stomach ulcer. That's one of the more common ones. They'll have a gastrointestinal bleed. They won't know about it. Their hemoglobin will drop. And we take their history, and it turns out they were taking an anti-inflammatory, often just for a short amount of time. Sometimes it's even longer. They've been put on it chronically by their doctor. So that's a fairly common one. There can be other ones which can occur over time. Kidney dysfunction would be a fairly common one. So we're very careful in the hospital if someone has renal impairment to not give them an ongoing dose of a high anti-inflammatory. It's not good for the kidney tubules and kidney function. So absolutely, in answer to your question, like any pharmaceutical, anti-inflammatory, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories do come with side effects. Now, don't get me wrong, they can be really good in the short term if you have some trauma and you just need an anti-inflammatory. But one thing that you touched on there that I really like to impart on our viewers is that most of the pharmaceuticals out there will deal with a problem at the end after it's occurred and have try to suppress it, whereas a lot of these natural compounds are dealing with the issue lower down the chain, sort of upstream. So as you mentioned, with the actual nerve regeneration, as opposed to pharmaceuticals, which are working further down the line.
Yeah, we want to treat the fundamental cause rather than treat the symptoms as far as we can. Absolutely. So we've got neutralizing free radicals. They also work by promoting cytokines that damp down inflammation, and they inhibit cytokines that promote inflammation. Incredible range of effects. They can also reduce the formation of prostaglandins, which is an inflammatory mediator, working in a range of different ways. And because they're so good for the gut microbiome and also seem to have a soothing effect on the lining of the gut, if the gut's not inflamed, if you think about it, the gastrointestinal tract is a big organ, and if that's inflamed, it's going to have effects on the whole body. And it reduces inflammation in that. And also there are antimicrobial activities, an antibiotic effect. Now, again, it's not clear in my mind what molecules this is or whether it's a combination, but there's definitely antibiotic effects. Some studies have shown it can inhibit bacterial protein synthesis, being bactericidal and bacteriostatic. Now, is there a problem at the moment in medicine with the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria?
Oh, absolutely massive problem. And it's something which many people have their eye on. And we take it for granted way too easily that people come into hospital. I'm looking at it from the perspective of a serious illness where someone has sepsis, and we give them an antibiotic, and literally within 24 hours, they are completely a new person. Their white cell count has come down. And if you have resistant bacteria, which are emerging, that could be absolutely deadly for huge swathes of the population. So antibiotics are difficult to produce. I'm hoping that certain developments like artificial intelligence will help with this. Now, as a general rule, I'm quite skeptical of pharmaceuticals and also new technology, but this is one area where I think AI could really help, because we're getting new bacteria. I mean, you think of how quickly bacteria divide. I mean, it's on a scale that we couldn't even imagine, the evolutionary process, and they keep on dividing, and then one of those divisions will be a resistant bug, and then that will divide further. So the ability for bacteria to evade antibiotics is huge, and it's something we have to keep close watch on.
I mean, the answer is that they can divide every half an hour. Multiplication times are very quick, and I think you rightly say that antibiotics were heralded as a medical miracle, and they are. You know, antibiotics are just brilliant. But wouldn't it be good to be able to develop some new ones based on natural molecules? And also, there's evidence that lion's mane extracts are effective against resistant bacteria. So some studies have shown that it's good for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, the MRSA that we have so much trouble with. And of course, globally, one that really concerns me in terms of antibiotic resistance is MDR-TB, multiple drug-resistant tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And the devastating effect that tuberculosis have, especially in poor parts of the world.
And we take it for granted that it's eradicated, but even in countries like the UK and USA, go back 80, 90 years, it was a huge problem, killed lots of young people. Yeah.
But I mean, as you all know, in India, Africa, it's just totally endemic.
Still really bad.
An appalling disease. So it seems that lion's mane extracts will work with conventional antibiotics as well. So a field really to look at there. And it also prevents formation of biofilms, which is that sticky film that you can sometimes get that prevents wound healing. So we've got a role in wound healing as well. And it works against gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. So it's fairly broad.
It is quite rare to see,
Yeah. Probably some antifungal effects. We think of people particularly who are immunocompromised might get fungal infections. People with HIV, for example. Now, anti-cancer is slightly more difficult. There probably is some anti-cancer molecules. There's another mushroom called turkey tail. And again, anecdotally, but I've heard some amazing reports from people taking turkey tail mushroom. But probably some anti-cancer properties as well. That's a field that really needs to be researched thoroughly to work out what fungi can be anti-cancer, as well as all the repurposed drugs as well. So There are clinical trials, mostly done in Japan and China. Pity we don't do more clinical trials on this in the West, but there's been trials successfully on mild cognitive impairment in Japan, early stage Alzheimer's, gastroenteritis, reducing gastroenteritis, and anxiety, depression, mood disorders. So there are some clinical trials that they're limited, but as we've said before, that the finance for them simply isn't there.
Yeah.
So lots of things to be optimized about it, but for now, I'm going to eat this for my tea.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic, John. I learned a tremendous amount as well. And I'm sure all our viewers will hear more and more about lion's mane. And
They will.
as always, we say this is not direct medical advice. Do your own research. Make sure that any compound is right for you. But we're presenting you the evidence that you're not going to see, certainly not in the mainstream media or in major medical journals.
Yep. And I think we both share this sense of just immense frustration at this, don't we? That, there's things there's things available here that can massively influence global health. That's not an exaggeration. Yet, just because of this myopic control and this focus on patentable specific molecules rather than the wonderful combinations of molecules that have been provided to us in the created order, people still carry on having pain, suffering and dying before they need to.
Absolutely. Yeah, sadly, the world of science and medicine goes where the money is. We saw this over the last 5 years, and it's opened up a lot of people's eyes. Dare I say, a lot of people watching right now have had their eyes open to the reality, and the two don't even need to be mutually exclusive. Like, I could be all about natural remedies, but okay, I will still get my labs done, and if something serious comes up, I still get it checked out. The two don't have to be exclusive. The issue that we have, that I know John feels the same way on, is that the medical philosophy was very different a few years ago, and a lot of us had this type of old school thinking with regards to medications being used as a last resort, and the pendulum has swung so far dramatically towards everything being a pharmaceutical approach, patented, expensive, coming with side effects, and it just doesn't have to be that way. There are many what I call natural tick boxes that can be utilized before you even get to that stage, or even with the pharmaceuticals.
Yep. But I think a lot of people are taking their health, more and more people are taking their health into their own hands.
Absolutely.
Which,
that's good to see.
Which is encouraging, yeah. Well, that was my turn. Your turn next time, Suneel. So I won't know what it is until you do a big reveal when you're ready. But
look forward to it.
It really makes it great fun.
Yeah. It does. It does. I never would have guessed lion's mane. I had a few thoughts this morning about what it could be.
yeah.
That totally surprised me.
Good. But it's good that you learn with the viewers, and when you're presenting, I learn with the viewers, and it's a mutual process. We're in this together.
Exactly. Lots to be learned out there, no matter what stage we're at.
Yeah. So for now, Suneel, thank you very much, and thank you for watching.
Thank you. Great to join you again.
Very good, actually. It doesn't taste mushroomy. It tastes more, I don't say what it is. A lot of people say it tastes like lobster. I'm not that familiar with lobster, but it's very good. Do try some.